Babes, tonight we learned that apparently fake nursing schools exist, and honestly, humanity might be collapsing.
Babes, we are here.
And not only are we here,
Babes, we've got our frozen April back on deck.
and you know what that means.
Time to spiral.
Because honestly, my entire timeline is just a complete disaster right now. The group chats are literally vibrating off the table, the blogs were absolutely on fire this evening, and I need to just get it out there immediately. Apparently, Cortney is engaged.
Oh, we're spiraling immediately. I saw the post, and I nearly dropped my drink.
I am so emotional right now. You know I am the romantic of this duo. Like, I genuinely teared up.
Wait, you actually teared up over
He
this?
did. I am just so hopeful for her. She has been through the absolute ringer on international television.
That's one way to put it.
I mean, she has survived some of the most traumatic, embarrassing dating disasters of our entire generation. And she finally gets her happily ever after. I am manifesting nothing but fairy tale energy for her. I really am.
Okay, let me stop you right there before you start putting together a Pinterest board for her bridal shower. Let's look at the actual facts of this so-called fairy tale. Snark Squad, if you haven't seen this, the man she is engaged to is 66 years old.
Love has no age limit.
Uh-huh.
We see age gap relationships thrive all the time if, the emotional maturity is there.
Bestie, love might not have an age limit, but his life expectancy absolutely does. Let's talk about the timeline, because this is where the red flags start waving like a literal parade.
They are so happy, though.
They are celebrating their 3-month anniversary.
That's
3
right.
months. I have half-empty bottles of niacinamide serum in my bathroom cabinet that I've been committed to longer than 3 months.
Okay, yes, it is fast.
And we need to talk about the ring. Did you see the ring?
I did see the ring. It was present. It existed on her finger.
It looked like something you pull out of a plastic bubble from a quarter machine at a roller rink in 1998.
Stop it. That is so mean.
It's the truth. But the absolute wildest part of this entire engagement timeline is the psychological chaos leading up to it. They literally had to have a sit-down conversation to kick her ex-boyfriend, Colt, out of her new 66-year-old boyfriend's guest room.
I know. It is highly unconventional.
What kind of precursor to a marriage is that? How do you build a foundation of trust when your ex is eating Hot Pockets down the hall?
But do you think it'll last? Like, what kind of wedding vibes are we genuinely expecting here?
Oh, it is going to be pure Florida retirement chic.
Oh my gosh.
I'm talking an early bird special reception. I'm talking vows exchanged on a pickleball court at 4:30 p.m. so everyone can be in bed by 8:00 to catch the local news.
I can't even deal with you right now. I think it could be a lovely beachside moment at sunset. But honestly, cheers to Cortney.
Cheers, I guess.
Cheers to the single babes out there navigating the absolute trenches of the dating pool. Cheers to the engaged babes and the married babes. Just cheers to you, the Snark Squad.
Yep, cheers to you guys for surviving another week of this madness with us.
That frozen Aperol really does hit different when the delusion is this thick.
It really does. But speaking of delusion, you were on TikTok earlier today, and somehow you dragged me into this massive rabbit hole about fake nursing schools.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Snark Squad, if you haven't seen this, buckle up. Apparently, there was a massive federal scandal where literal fake nursing diplomas were just being handed out.
It is actually insane.
Like thousands of them. People paid money, got a fake piece of paper, and then went out into the actual world to work in healthcare.
It is genuinely terrifying. How does this even happen?
Right. Like, who wakes up one morning and thinks, you know what, I'm going to counterfeit medical degrees? Seems like a solid, low-risk business venture.
And more importantly, the people buying them, did they realize they were fake? Or were they just sitting there thinking, oh, nursing school is way easier than I thought, and I didn't even have to look at a vein?
Babes, I have to assume they knew. But it just proves that people will do anything to skip the actual work required to build a foundation. They just want the title.
Babes, what do you mean someone learned medicine through vibes in a PDF?
I know. Imagine you are in the ICU. The machines are beeping. You need a life-saving IV, and your nurse is just manifesting the vein.
Oh my gosh, stop.
She's like, I'm sensing a blockage in your aura. Let me just poke around your arm with this needle and see what my intuition tells me. It is a nightmare.
It's terrifying, but it really got us thinking. After we completely spiraled over the fake nurses, we started talking about what other careers probably get faked constantly online.
Because the internet is just a wild west of fake jobs right now. People projecting authority they haven't earned.
Obviously, number one on the list is life coaches.
Because everyone online suddenly seems to be a life coach now.
Literally everyone. You log on to Instagram, and someone who is 22 years old, whose frontal lobe hasn't even finished developing, is now a coach.
Yes. Their bedroom floor is invisible under a pile of laundry, and they are still firmly on their parents' family cell phone plan, but they are charging $300 an hour to be a mindset coach.
What life are you coaching me on? How to navigate a quarter-life crisis while maxing out a Sephora credit card.
It's so true. The audacity is actually inspiring in a deeply twisted way. And add fake wellness gurus to that list.
Oh, the wellness gurus are the worst.
The people selling $50 downloadable PDFs on healing your gut with sunlight while claiming modern medicine is a scam.
Right, and the fake finance experts. The crypto bros, filming TikToks in a rented Lamborghini that they paid for by the hour.
Telling you to invest your entire 401k into a coin named after a dog because they cracked some secret algorithm.
Don't forget the people pretending to be CEOs. Their entire bio is just CEO and founder.
And you look up the company and it's just them selling drop-shipped, mass-produced phone cases out of their mom's basement.
The delusion is everywhere. Everyone wants the prestige without the clinical hours. But you know what job isn't fake?
Our jobs.
Truly. Snark Squad, for those of you who are new here, your two besties on the couch happen to be actual licensed real-life dentists we put in the clinical hours.
We work at different practices, but we share the exact same collective workplace trauma.
Oh, the trauma is so real. Let's tell the Snark Squad about the absolute chaos of our workdays, because the psychology of being a dentist is wild.
You are dealing with people in highly vulnerable, panicked states.
It's the patient chaos for me. Today, I had a grown man, probably 45 years old, fully start crying before I even leaned the chair back.
Oh my God, before you even started.
I hadn't even picked up a tiny mirror. I just walked in the room, said, "Hello, how was your weekend?" And the tears started flowing. He completely reverted to a childhood state of panic.
It's the smell of the office, I swear. It activates their fight or flight response immediately.
It really does.
But for me, it's the laughing gas confessions.
Oh, those are the best.
When people get a little nitrous oxide in their system, their inhibitions vanish entirely, and the things that come out of their mouths are completely unhinged.
What did you hear today? Tell me.
I had a patient today under laughing gas confess that she secretly hates her daughter-in-law's potato salad.
Okay, normal so far.
And she has been covertly throwing it over the privacy fence to the neighbor's dog for 5 straight years.
No, that is incredible. The poor dog.
I know. The emotional toll of dealing with people's plaque is one thing, but the emotional toll of carrying their deepest, darkest family secrets is a whole other level.
We are basically therapists with tiny, sharp hooks.
Honestly, trying to get our patients to floss is exactly like trying to get these TLC couples to communicate.
Wait, that is such a good analogy.
It is completely exhausting. It is usually bloody. No one is ever telling the actual truth, and it always ends with someone needing an extraction. Let's get into the recap.
A painful, expensive extraction, which is the perfect metaphor for the delusion we witnessed on our screens tonight.
Okay, Snark Squad, let's set the scene, because if you missed this, you missed modern television history.
Truly a historical moment.
Cortney and her new man, Phil, the 66-year-old we just discussed, are living together in his house in Florida. And somehow, defying all laws of physics, boundaries, and common sense, Colt, Cortney's ex, is living in their house, recovering from leg surgery.
I need to unpack the psychology of Colt immediately.
Please do.
We see this grown man eating a sad, pathetic, microwavable meal in a bed that is not his, in a guest room that does not belong to him.
It was so sad.
He's telling the cameras, "I can finally walk. I don't have to wheel around 24/7. And then he waddles out to the kitchen, holding his little plastic tray, hands his dirty dish to Phil, and Phil offers to wash it.
I was screaming at the screen. Make him wash his own sad little tray. He literally just bragged that he can walk now.
But the audacity gets worse. Colt tries to casually invite himself on their romantic date.
I couldn't believe my eyes.
Phil is standing there saying, "I'm going to hang out with Cortney tonight," and Colt actually asks if he can tag along. Phil, bless him, has to explicitly shut it down and say it's a romantic date to woo his woman.
And Colt's response.
Colt, displaying textbook narcissistic behavior, has the nerve to say, "I guess I can see how you'd want to woo Cortney, something I didn't know how to do." He centers himself in their romantic evening.
It's so deeply uncomfortable. And then Colt hits him with the most insane request.
Oh my God, the cat.
He looks at Phil and goes, "Hey, I'm pretty lonely sitting in this room all day. Do you think I can get a cat?"
My jaw literally unhinged. Phil has to politely inform this man, "No, Cortney is allergic."
How do you not know that?
How do you date a woman, travel internationally with a woman, supposedly love a woman, and completely forget a major medical allergy? It proves he never actually saw Cortney. He only saw what Cortney could do for him.
Okay, I hear that, but listen. Hear me out for a second.
I'm listening, but I'm judging.
Isn't it kind of sweet in a deeply twisted way that Courtney has this massive savior complex? Like, she saw him suffering in those nasty motels with a broken leg, dealing with the surgery, and she just wanted to help him.
No.
Maybe she's just a genuinely empathetic person who couldn't leave someone she used to care about in a bad situation.
Absolutely not. I am shutting this down right now. Courtney being empathetic is exactly the trait the cult preys upon.
You really think he's doing it on purpose?
He is an energy vampire. He is living rent-free in her elderly boyfriend's house, contributing absolutely nothing, while demanding emotional support animals that she is allergic to.
When you put it like that, yeah, it's pretty bad.
And then, the absolute cherry on top of the delusion sundae, Colt sits in his confessional and calls Phil and Courtney's relationship a sugar daddy situation.
The projection is staggering.
It is. You are living rent-free, getting your dishes washed by the so-called sugar daddy, and you have the nerve to judge their dynamic. Colt is the ultimate couch parasite.
It's so rich coming from him. But let's analyze the actual date, because Courtney and Phil go play pickleball, which is extremely on brand for Florida retirement life.
Extremely.
And Courtney tells the producers exactly why she is dating a 66-year-old.
Oh, the quotes from this segment. Put them in the Louvre.
She said she watched a video giving dating advice that told women to date older men because they are more chivalrous, they pay for dates, and, I quote, they're going to have a much harder time looking at other girls because they have cataracts.
I literally choked on my Aperol. Cataracts.
I know.
She literally admitted her relationship strategy is finding an older man whose vision is so medically compromised that he physically cannot cheat on her.
The logic is flawless and completely psychotic at the exact same time.
It's like saying, I want a boyfriend who won't run away from me, so I exclusively date men with broken ankles.
And then later, she gets even more descriptive about their intimacy.
Yeah.
She basically says they do it every day, there are no issues, and he doesn't take any pills.
She said he gets easily aroused. Snark Squad, I did not need to know about 66-year-old Phil's arousal levels. I really didn't.
Nobody did.
But the detail that truly rocked me to my core, especially given our profession, she said he drinks a lot of soda, like a 12-pack of soda a day.
As a dentist, what did that visual do to your brain?
My soul left my physical body. 12 sodas a day at 66 years old.
It's unbelievable.
Think about the phosphoric acid. Think about the sugar, bathing his teeth for 14 hours a day. His enamel isn't just gone, it has packed its bags, moved to another state, and changed its identity.
Honestly, it's a miracle he has teeth left to chew with.
He must have a mouthful of complete crowns, or he's just chewing his food on pure exposed nerve endings at this point. His mouth is a hazardous waste site.
It's terrifying. But despite the dental nightmare, the engagement happens. He gives her that ring, asks her to be his fiancée, and she says yes.
Yeah, she did.
She literally says, I think the universe finally rewarded me some good karma.
Well, the Reddit Snark community has a totally different, highly analytical take on this karma. We have to bring in the Reddit shade because the internet sleuths were dissecting the socioeconomics of this ruthless decision.
Oh, lay it on me. What is the consensus?
They are having a massive debate. Is Courtney the purse or the nurse? Because an armchair economist on Reddit pointed out that by doing this, she is participating in a double transfer of wealth.
Wait, I need you to explain that concept to me. How does that work?
Okay, look at her history. She's been living at home with her parents for a long time, right?
Oh.
She is likely an only child, or at least highly supported, meaning she will probably inherit their estate eventually. Now, she marries a 66-year-old man who clearly has assets and a paid-off house in Florida.
Okay, I see where this is going.
In 10 or 15 years, statistically speaking, he passes away and she inherits his assets too. Double transfer of wealth. One Reddit user literally said, she seems smarter than the average bear.
Wow. That is incredibly dark, but also strategic. But then you have to consider the alternative argument.
Which is?
Someone else pointed out that he's 66, but with modern medicine, despite the 12 sodas, he could live to be 95. She might be playing the long game as an unpaid, live-in geriatric caretaker, hence the nurse theory.
Exactly. And let's discuss the actual reality of dating in Florida for women in their 30s, because the Reddit thread went incredibly deep on this sociological aspect.
Oh, I bet.
A local Florida viewer chimed in and explained that the dating pool there is a nightmare. It's highly transient, men have tons of baggage, massive debt, multiple ex-wives, and huge egos.
Sounds rough.
So settling for a geriatric guy who owns his house outright and doesn't cheat because his retinas are detaching, is that a tragic settling or is that just the hyper-smart survival tactic in a broken dating economy?
Honestly, I can't even judge her. If you've been through the ringer with someone like Colt, who drains your energy, lives in your space, and offers nothing, a man with cataracts and a paid-off mortgage sounds like a beautiful, secure harbor in a terrible storm.
A sticky, soda-scented harbor, but sure.
Speaking of boundaries and knowing when to tap out, we need to transition from the retirement communities of Florida over to the absolute devastation in the Dominican Republic. Pedro, Sophie, and the paper towel heartbreak.
Oh, this was cinema. Pure, unadulterated cinema. Pedro is finally enforcing boundaries, which is fascinating to watch.
We open the scene with Sophie lounging by the pool in the DR with her friend Julia. She is stressing out because Pedro isn't texting her back.
Shocker.
Julia calls him. He answers briefly, says Sophie can do whatever she wants, and hangs up.
Because Pedro is currently pacing in his hotel room, aggressively packing his suitcase a full day early to flee his own country, he has hit his absolute psychological breaking point.
And the monologue he gives the producers, it deserves an award.
It is visceral poetry. Snark Squad, if you haven't heard this audio, Pedro looks dead into the camera, his eyes are red, and he says, "She used me like a paper towel. She wash her ass and throw me away."
I literally cannot handle the visual.
I absolutely lost it. But think about the metaphor here. The absolute devastation in his voice. She wash her ass and throw me away.
It's so graphic, but so expressive.
It implies that he was brought in solely to clean up her emotional mess, to absorb her baggage, and the second she felt clean and validated, she discarded him in the trash. It is the most brutally vivid, painful way anyone has ever described being ghosted.
It is iconic. But the context is what makes it so tragic. We have to look at the timeline.
Right, let's talk about the timeline.
He had been saving himself for 5 months. 5 months. He didn't pressure her to kiss him. He was wining and dining her, buying her expensive jewelry, waiting patiently to build a real emotional connection.
Yeah.
He brings her to his native country to share his culture with her.
And what does Sophie do with that reverence? She goes on a random excursion date with Brian, a 24-year-old gym owner she met 5 seconds ago, and makes out with him.
5 months of Pedro buying dinners and showing restraint versus 5 minutes with a random gym bro who offered her absolutely nothing but a bicep.
It's so disrespectful.
Pedro confronts her on the beach. He's holding a machete and a coconut, which is just incredible. Dramatic staging, by the way, and point blank asks if they kissed. She admits it.
And then
Pedro looks at her, says, "You don't see the value that I'm bringing to you," drops the coconut, and just walks away into the sunset.
good for him. The self-worth we love to see. But then, of course, Sophie enters her absolute victim era.
Oh, totally.
She's crying on the beach, complaining to Julia that he's acting childish and overreacting. Then she starts blowing up his phone with texts. "Are you fine? Are you hating me?"
And Pedro tells the producers,
He said it with his whole chest. He is entirely justified.
okay, I am going to push back on this because I have to look at Sophie's side of the dynamic,
Yes.
especially concerning modern dating culture. They weren't officially exclusive.
Oh, come on.
She specifically told him earlier that she wanted time to be single and explore. Does Pedro really have a right to be this furious, to play the ultimate betrayed victim just because he voluntarily bought her dinners and gifts?
Yes.
You cannot buy exclusivity with jewelry. If he assumed exclusivity without a verbal contract, isn't that on him?
No, absolutely not. I am pushing back so hard on this defense. Yes, she used the words, "I want to be single," but her actions completely contradicted those words, and she knows it.
How so?
Let's break down the psychological contract of dating. Sophie knew from day one that Pedro wanted a serious, committed relationship culminating in marriage. She knew his intentions were deeply traditional.
That's true.
You do not accept a free international trip to a man's home country. Let him buy you gold, meet his family, and let him act like your devoted boyfriend for 5 months if you just want to be a single girl exploring her options.
But she was just enjoying the ride.
That's the problem. She strung him along because she liked the validation, the attention, and the free meals. If she truly wanted to be single, she would have paid for her own flight and set a firm boundary.
I mean, when you put it like that.
She didn't. She manipulated his hope. Pedro literally admits in his confessional that his mom and his sister were right about her all along. He said she made him feel like an idiot and he was blind in love. The paper towel has officially been flushed.
Wow. When you break down the transactional nature of it, you're right. She wanted the boyfriend treatment without the girlfriend loyalty.
Exactly.
Okay, well, speaking of terrifying vulnerability and boundaries, let's move from the Dominican Republic over to whatever rustic pub Kim and Wayne are sitting in, because we need to talk about the secret siblings.
This whole sequence was a psychological roller coaster. We go from Sophie having zero boundaries to Kim being terrified to show any vulnerability at all.
So Kim brings Jamal, her adult son, on a date with her new man, Wayne.
A very weird date.
Right. And Wayne decides the perfect icebreaker activity is taking them to a blacksmith workshop to forge metal.
Which is such a specific, aggressively masculine first meet activity. Hello, nice to meet my new girlfriend's son. Let's put on leather aprons and go hit hot iron with a hammer in a dark room.
And Jamal gets bored immediately. He literally steps out of the shop. Wayne feels bad, but he's optimistic, saying, hopefully he'll like the pub later.
But the real tension, the thick, suffocating tension, happens in the van ride afterward between Kim and Jamal.
Because Jamal is tired of carrying his mother's secrets. Snark Squad, the massive reveal this season is that Kim has children she gave up for adoption years ago.
Such a huge secret to carry.
Jamal has a full biological brother named Larry, who recently found Kim through a DNA website, and a full sister out there as well.
And Kim is absolutely terrified to tell Wayne. Jamal looks at her in the van and says, if they ask me about my siblings tonight, I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying for you anymore.
Kim gets super defensive, her voice goes high, and she gets really snappy with him.
Which is incredibly unfair to Jamal. You cannot force your adult child to lie about his own biological siblings to a virtual stranger just because you haven't processed your own shame. Jamal has a right to his own family history.
I completely agree it's unfair to Jamal, but I got so emotional during the actual dinner when Kim finally breaks down. Snark Squad, put yourself in her shoes.
It was a tough watch.
She tells Wayne everything. She explains she was with the same man for years, he was completely absent, life was incredibly hard financially and emotionally, and she was all by herself trying to survive. She was crying, saying, it's my past, it's my baggage.
It must be so paralyzing to be that vulnerable.
To share the heaviest secret of your life with a man you were falling for, terrified he's going to instantly judge you as a failure or a bad mother.
I agree. The shame she was carrying was palpable. But we really need to focus on Wayne's response because it completely reframed the entire dynamic.
He was amazing.
Kim uses the word baggage, and Wayne immediately softly interrupts her and says, don't use the word baggage. It's history, it's your life, it's what happened. Baggage is a horrible word to use.
Bestie, I swooned. I literally sank into my couch. It was so beautiful.
It was incredibly validating. Do you know why reframing it as history instead of baggage is so powerful?
Tell me your psychological breakdown.
Baggage implies something heavy, cumbersome, and negative that you are forcing someone else to help you carry. It implies you are a burden. History simply states that events occurred before this present moment, shaping who you are, without assigning a moral failing to them. He removed the shame from her narrative in one sentence.
So emotionally intelligent.
He was so calm. He said he didn't judge her. He admitted he couldn't have raised kids by himself either, and it wasn't a deal breaker for him. But here's my analytical question for you.
Uh-oh.
Is Wayne a walking, talking green flag for handling that so maturely, or is this a massive trauma bond waiting to happen?
Wait, why would it be a trauma bond?
Because accepting a secret that massive that easily without asking any follow-up questions, is that healthy acceptance or is that avoidant behavior?
I don't think it's avoidant. I think he's just an older man who has lived a full life and understands that everyone has ghosts.
Yeah.
Which we find out later at the pub is actually true.
True.
Because they meet up with Jamal and Wayne's family, and the conversation gets so incredibly confusing.
Oh, the pub confusion. Jamal, who is clearly the only person seeking direct communication, asks them straight up, are you in a relationship?
And they answer at the exact same time. Kim says, we're getting there, and Wayne says, we're not there yet.
The cringe, it physically hurt me. You could feel the air leave the room.
But then Wayne explains his own history to give context. He says when he was 20 years old, he got his girlfriend pregnant, and they rushed into a marriage strictly to do the right thing for the child. It ended horribly.
Right.
So now, 40 years later, he refuses to rush anything. He takes things at a glacial pace to ensure he never repeats that mistake.
Jamal actually loved that answer. He was super impressed by Wayne's maturity and intentionality, but Kim was visibly terrified by the rejection of the label.
Right. So my question for you is this just semantics? Like getting there and not there yet technically describe the same middle ground phase of dating, just with an optimistic versus a pessimistic phrasing? Or are they on completely different planets right now?
Oh, they are on entirely different planets, orbiting different suns. Think about the sequence of events.
Oh, okay. Lay it out.
Kimmen's desperate for validation and a secure label because she just trauma dumped her biggest, most shameful secret. When you expose your underbelly, you want the security of someone saying, "We're together, I've got you."
Exactly.
Wayne, however, is aggressively applying the brakes because he's terrified of his own past mistakes. She is seeking immediate security. He is seeking prolonged safety through distance. It's a recipe for a massive, painful miscommunication down the line.
Ugh. When you lay out the psychological needs like that, it makes total sense. They're triggering each other's core wounds without even realizing it.
Exactly. But speaking of core wounds and absolute manipulation, we have to talk about Vanja and Tony.
Oh, my God. The miscommunication in the pub was bad, but the straight-up deception in Florida was a crime.
We need to dissect this reunion. Vanja finally comes back from her month-long trip to Europe. Tony picks her up at the airport. They drive back to his house, and they head to the bedroom to finally consummate this relationship after weeks apart.
And Vanja, being a normal human, goes to the bathroom to freshen up. She brushes her teeth, fixes her hair, gets ready. Tony does not.
Snark Squad, the visual of Tony on this bed will haunt my nightmares. He is lying there, awkwardly testing out seductive poses, and he is covered, and I mean absolutely saturated, in massive sweat stains.
The pit stains were aggressive. They were reaching his ribs.
My fight or flight was immediately activated. If you live in Florida, I need you to shower before a romantic reunion.
It's just common courtesy.
I don't care if you just walked from the air-conditioned car to the front door. It is 98% humidity outside. You do not invite a woman into your bed smelling like the outside air, exhaust fumes, and swamp water. It was biologically repulsive.
It was definitely a choice. But apparently, Vanja was completely unbothered because she came out later and said the intimacy was fantastic and highly sensual.
Good for her. Her immune system must be incredibly strong. I would have called an Uber and gone straight to a hotel.
But the real hurdle of the episode wasn't the sweat. It was meeting his parents. Vanja brings these beautiful, artisan, vegan cupcakes to meet Tony's parents. And Tony has already warned her in the car, my parents are devout Catholics. Religion is absolutely going to come up. Be prepared.
And we get Vanja's backstory here, which provides so much necessary context. She is a survivor of the Yugoslavian religious wars.
Which is incredibly heavy.
She grew up watching her entire country tear itself apart over religious differences. She witnessed death, destruction, and violence, all explicitly tied to religious dogma. So as an adult, having survived that trauma, she just completely opts out. She refuses to engage with organized religion.
Right. And Snark Squad, we are keeping it completely neutral here on the theological differences and the deep geopolitical history of the Yugoslavian war, because that is way above our pay grade on the Snark couch.
Way above.
But what we absolutely must praise, from a purely psychological standpoint, is how Vanja handled this boundary.
It was a masterclass in polite but firm boundary setting.
Truly. Tony's mom is sitting there, eating the vegan cupcake, loving it, and she casually invites Vanja to Mass.
Do you want to come to church with us on Sunday and see how we do it? Snark Squad, put yourself in Vanja's shoes. You want these people to like you. The pressure to conform is huge.
Most people would cave, but Vanja just smiles. Her voice doesn't shake, and she says, I would probably prefer to stay away.
I would have crumbled. If my brand new boyfriend's mom asked me to go to church, I would be in the front pew the next morning holding a hymnal, sweating through my floral dress, terrified of being rejected by the matriarch. Vanja held her ground with such grace and didn't over-explain or apologize for her trauma. She really did. The parents seemed a little hesitant after that. The mom literally said, if it is God's will, let it happen. If not, I don't want it to happen. But Tony, living in his own delusional reality, thought the meeting went great.
Which brings us to the ultimate fake-out of the season.
This scene made me want to throw my frozen Aperol directly at my television screen.
Tony sits Vanja down on the couch. He gives this long, drawn-out romantic speech about how much she means to him and taking the next step in their lives together.
Yeah.
And then he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small, square, velvet box.
A literal ring box.
Vanja thinks it's a ring. Any normal human woman on planet Earth, given that speech and that specific velvet geometry, would think it's a ring. Her eyes light up, she opens it, and it's a key.
Here's a key to my house. I want you to move in.
And Vanja is visibly crushed. The disappointment washes over her entire face. She literally tells him, I don't want a roommate, I want a husband.
Well, the Reddit sleuths were zooming in on this scene in 4K resolution. Did you see what they noticed about that key?
No, what did they find?
Multiple people on Reddit noticed that the key wasn't even cut. It looked exactly like a blank brass key you buy at Home Depot for $1.50 before the employee puts it in the grinding machine.
Wait, are you serious?
It didn't even have the jagged teeth required to fit a door lock.
No way. He gave her a prop key.
I am dead serious. It was a decoy. And to make the psychological warfare even worse, the very next day he takes her house hunting.
The audacity.
He wants to buy a massive, expensive house with her. And Vanja, holding on to her last shred of dignity, flat out refuses. She tells the realtor and Tony that she is absolutely not buying property with a man without a ring on her finger.
Good for her. But here is the debate we need to have, because people are split on this. Is Vanja acting desperate and pressuring him for demanding an engagement ring after only knowing him for 6 months? Or is Tony being incredibly manipulative by stringing her along with false promises of a big house and a fake key?
Oh, Tony is the absolute villain here. Listen to me. You do not hand a 43-year-old woman who has clearly stated she wants marriage a small velvet box after 6 months of intense dating unless there is a diamond inside it.
Exactly.
Doing so is calculated emotional manipulation. It's cruel. He wants the financial benefit of her income to help buy a bigger house, and he wants the domestic benefit of a live-in partner without offering the legal, financial, or emotional commitment of an actual marriage. He is trying to get wife privileges on a roommate subscription plan.
Gusty, you just nailed it. Wife privileges on a roommate subscription. You cannot house hunt with a sweaty man you met half a year ago who hands you a blank piece of brass. It's unhinged.
Exactly. Financial manipulation is a running theme tonight, which brings us to our final disaster, Gino.
Oh my God, how could I forget Gino?
Because it was a brief segment, but structurally it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Gino finally goes to a lawyer to officially file for divorce from Jasmine. And the lawyer's office, I need you to describe this aesthetic.
It was a legal broom closet.
It was literally hidden behind a fake pivoting bookshelf inside a crystal and tarot card shop.
I screamed. A Reddit commenter literally said they got Better Call Saul vibes, and they are entirely right.
It's so true.
Think about the reality of Gino's situation. His 401k has been drained so rapidly from funding Jasmine's luxurious lifestyle, her pageants, and her rent, that he clearly cannot afford a retainer at a legitimate law firm.
He's totally broke.
He had to hire a discount lawyer operating out of the clearance section of a strip mall magic shop. He had to physically push past burning sage bundles and amethyst geodes just to sit down and discuss his prenuptial assets.
It is the most Gino thing to ever happen. He is dealing with incredibly complex legal issues. A child out of wedlock, filing across 2 different states, pending immigration and visa issues, potentially hidden assets, and he's getting his legal counsel next to a rack of $5 dream catchers.
And of course, despite not even being legally divorced yet, he already has a new girlfriend.
Lexi.
Lexi is 30 years old. Gino is 56.
And during their date, she casually mentions that her own father is actually younger than Gino. She laughs and says, "What if my dad kicks your ass?"
And Gino just giggles nervously and says, "Hey, I hope he likes me as a person."
Ugh, the cringe.
The Reddit theory on this dynamic is incredibly dark, but given Gino's history, it is probably accurate. People are analyzing his pattern and saying he specifically sought out a much younger woman for 2 distinct, highly selfish reasons: breeding and a future caretaker.
Oh, that is so grim.
It's documented. He literally admitted in a previous interview that he wants a partner in her early 30s specifically so she has the biological clock to give him children, and so she is young enough to physically take care of him as his health declines in old age.
That is so deeply transactional and gross. He doesn't want a romantic partner to share a life with. He wants an incubator with a nursing degree. It all circles back to the fake nurses.
It really does. Okay. We have unpacked the trauma. We officially need to categorize this mess. Let's transition into the segments.
Yes. Segment 1, biggest red flag energy. Out of everyone we watched tonight, which cast member activated your fight or flight response the absolute hardest?
You already know my answer. Without a doubt, it's Tony.
Not the sweat stains taking the #1 spot.
It's the sweat stains combined with the absolute psychological warfare of the velvet box. Handing a grown woman a blank key in a ring box after 6 months, expecting her to go half-sizz on a 30-year mortgage while flat out refusing to commit to the security of marriage. That is pure, weaponized incompetence. He wants all the perks of a devoted wife with none of the legal responsibility. Pure, glowing red flag. What about you?
For me, it is absolutely Colt.
I mean, valid.
Living in your ex-girlfriend's new elderly boyfriend's house is crazy crazy enough on paper. But to sit there complaining about the quality of your microwave meals, letting a 66-year-old man wash your dirty dishes, boldly calling their relationship a sugar daddy arrangement to the cameras, and then having the audacity to ask for a cat when you know the woman housing you is highly allergic. It is textbook narcissistic red flag energy.
He really is the worst.
He just expects the entire world to revolve around his healing leg. He is an impacted wisdom tooth of a human being.
An impacted wisdom tooth. That is poetry. Okay, segment 2. Fake job starter pack.
Ooh, tying it back to our TikTok spiral from the intro. I love this.
If these cast members were forced to pivot to a fake influencer or scam career online today, what would they be? Let's start with Sophie.
Sophie is 100% a fake wellness guru.
Yes.
She would be charging $50 for downloadable PDFs titled Healing Your Aura and Protecting Your Peace, while actively destroying the emotional stability of every man who buys her dinner.
Absolutely.
She'd be posting aesthetic, crying selfies about how toxic the modern world is, filmed from the balcony of an expensive Airbnb that Pedro paid for.
Spot on. She would definitely sell overpriced sea moss gel. What about Gino?
Gio is a crypto bro, fake finance expert. He'd be filming poorly lit, shaky TikToks in a rented Lamborghini, wearing his stupid little hat, claiming he has a secret algorithm that can 10x your 401k in a week.
With his giggle.
Meanwhile, in reality, he's consulting a discount lawyer in the back room of a tarot shop because he's broke.
The accuracy is frightening. I'll give you Colt. Colt is absolutely a fake life coach. But specifically, he's one of those alpha male dominance podcasters.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He would be aggressively selling a $300 masterclass on how to assert your dominance over modern women while filming the videos from a twin-size bed in his ex-girlfriend's sugar daddy's guest room, waiting for his Hot Pocket to cool down.
The visual of that is too much. It is too accurate.
Okay, moving on to segment 3. Relationship delusion rankings. We need to rank these 4 couples from most stable down to absolutely doomed.
Okay, coming in at number 1, most stable, and I want to emphasize that I'm using the word stable very relatively here, is Cortney and Phil.
I cannot believe I am agreeing with this, but from a purely transactional standpoint, you're right.
It's a win-win. It's the person, the nurse.
It really is.
Let's be honest about what this is. He wants companionship, a pretty girl on his arm, and someone to hang out with in his retirement. She wants financial security, a paid-off roof over her head, and someone who literally cannot cheat on her because his vision is failing.
The cataracts.
They are both getting exactly what they want out of this arrangement without lying to themselves. Plus, they play pickleball. That's stable routine.
God help us all. A 66-year-old drinking 12 sodas a day is the healthiest dynamic on the show.
What's number 2?
Number 2, hanging by an absolute thread, Kim and Wayne.
Wait, why do you put them above Vanish and Tony? They couldn't even agree on if they were dating at the pub.
Because they're actually utilizing verbal communication. It's painful, it's clunky, and it's full of triggers. But Kim shared her darkest, most shameful secret, and Wayne accepted it beautifully without judging her.
That's fair.
The problem is purely the pacing. Wayne's glacial, terrified pace might end up breaking Kim's very fragile trust before they reach the finish line, but they are at least trying to be honest with each other.
That's a good point. Which puts number 3, approaching disaster, Vanja and Tony.
You cannot house hunt with a sweaty roommate you've known for 6 months who hands you blank prop keys in velvet boxes. It is a psychological powder keg.
It really is.
Vanja's biological and emotional clock is ticking loudly for a husband, and Tony is just looking for someone to split the rising Florida utility bills. It is going to explode spectacularly.
Well, coming in dead last, number 4, absolutely doomed.
Yeah.
Dead and buried. Pedro and Sophie.
The paper towel has been flushed into the Atlantic Ocean, and the plumbing is backed up.
Completely clogged.
There's no coming back from the machete coconut confrontation on the beach. It is fundamentally over.
Okay, final segment. Segment 4. Would you survive 90 Day? We sit on this couch and judge these people so harshly every week, but could we actually survive the reality of this show? Let's break it down. Could you do the long distance phase?
Absolutely not. I would tap out immediately.
Yeah.
If I text you right now and you don't text me back in 2 hours, my brain immediately assumes you are either dead in a ditch or you are secretly dating my nemesis.
You are so dramatic.
I have zero object permanence when it comes to romantic relationships. If you are in another country and I cannot see you, you do not exist to me.
I am the exact same way.
Oh.
I need physical presence and words of affirmation in person.
I see.
But what about the next phase? Moving countries for love. Let's say Wayne is real and he's perfect and he lives in a beautiful town in South Africa. Are you moving?
No. See, you always romanticize this part. You always say you want to move to a rustic villa in Europe and press your own olives.
I do. I think it sounds incredibly romantic to pack up your entire life, leave the rat race behind, and assimilate into a beautiful new culture solely for the person you love. Imagine riding a vintage Vespa through the cobblestone streets of Italy at sunset.
You would last exactly 3 days. Let's talk reality, not Pinterest. You would miss the convenience of American iced coffee instantly. You would have a full-blown emotional breakdown because there isn't a Target within a 4,000-mile radius to wander around when you're stressed.
Okay, the target part is true.
And what about our dental practices? Are you really going to go spend 5 years getting relicensed in rural Italy? No. You'd be crying on that romantic cobblestone street begging a stranger for a venti cold brew.
Okay, when you bring Target and my dental license into it, it feels like a targeted personal attack. But
Yeah.
you were completely right. I would absolutely crumble under the lack of convenience.
Which brings us to the emotional tap out. If you were actually filming, how fast would you quit the show?
Oh, the very first time the producers asked me to manufacture drama or confront my partner in a public restaurant, I'd probably start hyperventilating and crying. I hate public confrontation.
I wouldn't even make it to the manufactured drama. The minute someone asked me to stay in a motel without central AC, I am calling an Uber to the airport.
You were so high maintenance.
If I walk into a room and the air conditioning unit is a plastic box attached to the wall under the window, rattling like a Boeing 747 jet engine, the romance is completely dead. I am not sweating for love.
I just know my worth, right?
I do. And my worth requires central cooling and a real cut diamond in my velvet box.
I love that for you. Well, Snark Squad, we have absolutely spiraled tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on the couch, drinking with us, and letting us completely unpack this chaos.
We survived another week, but we want to hear from you. Get in the comments right now and settle these debates for us.
Yes. We want to know, what fake internet career do you think is the absolute most common right now? Are you seeing more life coaches or crypto bros on your timeline?
Second question. Which cast member from tonight do you trust the absolute least? Are you Team Tony as a financial manipulator, or are you Team Sophie as the ultimate emotional villain?
And most importantly, should frozen Aperol officially become the trademark drink of our weekly spiral? Let us know, because I am genuinely ready to buy a commercial blender exclusively for this space.
Please remind them to do the things.
Snark Squad, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you are hanging out with us. And do not forget to send in your own messy relationship or workplace survival stories for future discussions.
Right.
We want your dental drama, your fake job call-outs, all of it.
You know we live for the mess. But until next time, think about those fake nursing schools.
Oh, no.
Remember, trying to force a bad relationship to work is exactly like trying to save a tooth that's already decaying at the root. It's bloody, it's painful, and eventually, you just need a professional to pull the plug so you can finally heal.
Stay romantic,
Stay chaotic.
and we will see you on the Snark side.